Yeah, boy.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, I understand that all of the skill trees in Outward are good. Heck, they're even great, and each is extremely powerful when paired with different armor and weapons. That being said, Philosopher is the single best skill tree for mages in Outward. It's the best because it has chakrams. This is a weapon type that can only be used in your offhand. You get a disc and throw it at your enemies with 3 different skills. I truly believe there's nothing more fun in this game than using a chakram. They are a very unique weapon type that is not seen often, and the damage you can do is insane. Keep your enemies knocked over constantly and shred their health bars with only a few button presses. But there's also more to this skill tree. Sigils, mana ward, and even mana regen. I truly believe that this is an amazing skill tree because its early game potential is unmatched, and you'll have a blast using it. Let's check out every skill from the Philosopher skill tree over in Monsoon, and see what it's all about. Mana Ward is a cheap tier 1 skill that can always be bought, and it has a very quick cooldown time. You won't see this doing much on its own, as it's supposed to be paired with various sigils to create powerful effects. However, it does do one very powerful thing all on its own. Casting it grants you 4 seconds of invincibility. This means that in or out of a sigil, you can cast it and take 0 damage from elemental explosions, melee attacks, and any other kind of damage. 4 seconds does not seem like a lot, no, but it can give you the chance you need to knock over your opponent or even just get out of enemy reach. This skill has much more potential than people realize, and even on its own, it's a game changer. Using this will not remove damage from bleeding or diseases, unfortunately. Those are a bit different than regular damage. Mana Ward will also decrease your impact resistance by 50%, meaning you can be knocked over easily. This does not usually come into play, however, as you are invincible to damage, but it can get you into trouble if a whole group of enemies hit you at once. I'm going to go over what this skill does in the Fire and Ice sigil later, but it also interacts with Blood sigil from the Hexmage skill tree. Activating it inside the circle grants Gift of Blood, which decreases your health by 1 per second, but heals allies and grants some damage bonuses. So pretty interesting, and could make for a possible support build. Fire Sigil. One of the easiest ways to gain massive damage in Outward. Another cheap skill that can be bought on any character and can also be learned for free once you unlock mana at a Leyline. It requires you to have fire stones to activate, which can be made with a mana stone and thick oil at an alchemy kit. These stones are very easy to get and will allow you to use this almost as frequently as you like. A sigil does nothing on its own. It is essentially a medium that you summon and use to kickstart other skills. Spark, Mana Ward, and a Flint and Steel can all be used in this circle to create unique effects. Spark costs very low mana and produces a long-range fireball. This skill combo deals 60 fire damage and 60 impact. It will also burn the enemy. You can use this with extreme effectiveness as it deals a lot of damage and can be spammed every 3 seconds, causing your enemies to die quickly from initial damage and the burning, which lasts quite some time. This offers you an excellent ranged weapon which can make many enemies die almost instantly. Mana Ward can be used in a Fire Sigil, and it will grant you the Immolite buff. This causes you to take 0.5 fire damage per second, but will increase your fire damage by 30%. This is ridiculous when paired with certain armors, as it massively increases fire damage. It's a very simple skill which buffs anything fire-related you do. This means anything burning around you tends to drop almost instantly. The fire damage to you seems annoying, but it is a very, very low amount. Any healing active on your character will make it almost non-existent. Water does put this out, but also removes the effect, so don't think you can get around the damage and still keep the buff. Lastly, we have Flint and Steel, a simple tool you wouldn't normally think would do anything other than light campfires. This assumption is wrong, however, because Flint and Steel causes the best combo for early game. Using it in a Fire Sigil will summon a Ring of Fire that deals 6 fire damage every 0.25 seconds. It lasts 25 seconds, it also causes burning. I took this over to Vendaval Fortress to show off its power a bit, and the results were hilarious. Just block while standing slightly outside the ring. Enemies will try to bulldoze you and absolutely obliterate their health while doing so. The damage only occurs in a ring, so anyone inside takes no damage. But like I said, you can block and keep opponents in the ring of death. This is very helpful considering it will only cost you the mana for throwing down a sigil. Flint and Steel uses no mana and can be placed down multiple times until the sigil is gone. In fact, the ring will stay on the ground even after the sigil disappears until the 25 seconds is up. Fire Sigil offers purely fire damage, but the possibilities with it are endless. It probably has the most unique results from skill combos, and it can be very fun to play around with. One last thing about the sigil is that it will actually raise the player's heat temperature by 28 while standing in it, which is interesting to say the least. Next up, we have Chakram skills Pierce and Arc. Both do similar but very different things. And they can be used even if you don't take the skill tree, which is awesome. Pierce has the lowest cooldown for a Chakram skill. It sends out your disc at a medium range and hits possibly twice. Once on the way out and once on the way back in. This skill is your best option for more ranged combat, as you don't have to stand directly near the enemy for it to be effective. Its damage and impact are pretty good with a low mana cost of only 5. Pierce should be what you use often, and since it hits twice, the results are very good. Chakram Arc, on the other hand, is completely different. Rather than being sent out from your character in a straight line, this will cause the chakram to sweep in front of you. It hits only once and has a much higher cooldown of 12 seconds. Not only that, but the mana cost is raised to 8, meaning it is less effective to use constantly. However, it is the best chakram skill by far. This guy has a 4 times impact multiplier, meaning it knocks back almost every enemy you can think of. Doesn't always knock them down fully, but will knock them back. Use Chakram Arc first before anything else. This immediately gains you the advantage. Next, cast either Mana Push or Chakram Pierce. Whoever you are facing will now be on the ground. The ability to keep enemies getting up and down over and over is valuable beyond compare, and using this correctly will change the way you play chakrams forever. Unfortunately, the downside to Arc is it is not ranged whatsoever. You will need to be very close to your opponent for it to reach them. But once you get used to the range, you can simply block until the opening arrives and get this one attack in that opens up all kinds of other attacks for you. These two skills can be used very strategically to make for smooth gameplay. Be aware that neither can be used without the Discipline boon active. Potions for this buff are very easy to craft, and Brace is an S tier skill that grants it to you as well. So don't let that scare you away from chakrams. They are very, very powerful and easy to use with a little experience. The middle skill for our Philosopher skill tree is called Leyline Connection, and it will cost you 1 of your 3 precious breakthrough points. This is a passive skill that will always be active upon purchase, and it grants you 0.34 mana regen per second. This is passive mana regen that lets you walk into nearly any situation with some mana. This comes in handy more often than not, and the quality of life here is top notch. I love taking this tree because otherwise I need to worry about using potions, foods, and other things to keep my mana reserve from remaining at 0. This is almost always required when using chakrams, as they will eat through your reserve quickly when it's not properly managed. That being said, do not take this skill tree for the mana regen alone. Mana potions are the easiest to craft, and you could just become tired for mana regen also. So don't lock yourself into this skill tree every run thinking mana regen is a necessary skill. It's just a very convenient thing to have, and it's a lot of fun. Chakram Dance is a sort of ultimate chakram skill. It will cause your disc to sweep back and forth while also moving forward. It can hit up to 5 times and usually keeps enemies stunned in place while dealing the damage. It packs a lot of power and will finish off most opponents if they aren't of the stronger variety. It is unfortunately the most difficult chakram skill to use though. If the enemy is too close or too far away, it won't hit every time, and you will have wasted a very good skill. It also has a large cooldown time of 120 seconds, and costs 20 mana. You basically get it once per battle and need to make it count. My advice is to be 1 or 2 steps away from the enemy and then activate it. I find this lets me get the most hits in and not completely miss. Chakram Dance is extremely powerful, but will require the most patience to use effectively, and missing usually results in you taking damage. The animation is so long that it's a pretty easy window for things to attack you. Using the dance right after an enemy gets back up is usually a good idea because they aren't moving a lot, which obviously has its advantages. Sigil of Ice and Fire Affinity are the last two skills in this tree. You can only have one, as taking either locks out the other. Sigil of Ice is great for any ice build, or any build that uses multiple sigils. Fire Affinity buffs your fire attacks, so if you're focusing on a fire weapon or magic ability, it's almost always required that you take this. Fire Affinity is a passive skill that will always be active once you buy it. This one is pretty easy to understand, as it offers you 20% more fire resistance as well as 15% extra fire damage. This fits quite well with the Fire Sigil, as the extra defense means the self-inflicted fire deals even lower damage than before, and your fire attacks will all be buffed. This skill is extremely powerful as it can get you to 100% fire resistance in certain armor sets, and the damage with obsidian or meteoric weapons gets very strong. If you ever plan on making a build based around fire, this should be something you take. It's just too good to pass up. The Ice Sigil is a very powerful magic skill that costs 7 mana and a cold stone to cast. These stones are not quite as easy to get as fire stones, but they commonly drop from ice witches, so be sure to save some up. Blue sand and a mana stone in an alchemy kit can craft you 3 of them as well, but that's hard to craft since most of the blue sand is in Chersonese. This sigil locks you out of extra fire defense and damage, but offers you the advantage over any fire enemy. Place a sigil down, and then we can use Mana Ward, Push Kick, and Mana Push inside for some amazing effects. Mana Ward creates a massive ice explosion which deals 100 frost damage and 60 impact. This is very short ranged but packs a punch. Any fire enemy will be demolished by this, and luckily this skill makes you invincible for 4 seconds, negating any damage you take in the process. Next, we have Push Kick. This skill is given to the player at the start of Outward, and inside the sigil it creates a small ice blast dealing 60 frost damage and 50 impact. This is not as good as Mana Ward, but since neither skill has instant cooldown, we need more than one blast attack. Lastly, we have Mana Push. This can be purchased from the Cabal Hermit skill tree, and inside the sigil it shoots out a large shard of ice that deals 85 frost damage and 60 impact. Using the Ice Sigil provides you with strong close-range attacks and one amazing attack that is long-range. All 3 skill combos inflict slowdown on your target, causing them to move 25% slower. Fire Sigil has skills that are able to be activated over and over. Ice Sigil instead has very strong attacks that take some time to come back. It rewards smart and patient gameplay. The Ice Sigil also looks super cool with shards of ice popping up all around the circle. This sigil will decrease the player's temperature by 18 while standing in it, which is pretty nice in hot areas. The Philosopher skill tree offers all kinds of fun things: fire magic, ice magic, chakrams, and passive mana regen. It is extremely fun to use on any mage character, and fully utilizing anything it offers grants you unlimited power. Stagger enemies infinitely with chakrams, explode your opponents with massive ice blasts, and burn monsters to the ground with multiple fire skills. Even on its own, this skill tree can get you through most of Outward easily. I will mention that the best faction quest to take with this skill tree is the Soraborians faction. This is the one over in the Antique Plateau, and it offers cooldown as a passive. Cooldown tremendously increases the effectiveness of chakrams and the Ice Sigil. Both have okay cooldowns, but just slightly slower than you want them. So the Sorabor faction will help you get your skills back when you need them. Another key thing for the skill tree is the White Arcane Robe. It is a legacy-chested version of the Arcane Robe and is the best chest piece for mage characters. It offers damage bonus, good resistance, nice negative mana cost, and even some extra cooldown. After Definitive Edition, this armor piece right here is unmatched for Chakram users and Ice Sigil users. Plus, the fashion isn't half bad either. Philosopher's more well known because it offers mana regen, but go try out chakrams if you haven't already. They are one of the rarest types of magic to see in anything really, and I have had so much fun using them. Plus, you get to use the tasty pizza chakram from Barrelman. Thanks for watching the video, and please consider hitting that like button if you enjoyed it. Keep playing Outward, and I will catch you in the next one.